Ready to get going here, guys. First, I'd like to thank everybody for showing up today. Hopefully, we can teach you guys something that you didn't already know. We've been doing this, well, I've been doing this now, this is my 21st year of coyote hunting. So, I've had a little bit of a learning curve over the last 21 years. Good, bad, ugly. So, hopefully my experiences can shorten that learning curve for some of you guys. Questions, I will be more than happy to answer any and all questions. Once we get the seminar going, if you can hold the questions for the most part till the end, I will stay here till the store closes tonight answering questions. Just trying to, we'll try to get through the seminar and, but if you've got something that you really want to know at that point, by all means, feel free to ask. So, again, my name is Matt Todd, and this is Matt Pumford.
How's it going, guys? I've been coyote hunting about 6 years, and that's not as long as this guy, but he's got twice the age on me. So, yeah, I'm the young kid, and I'm up here, and everybody's like, I ain't gonna learn nothing from him, and you might not. But I can tell you one thing, the game has automatically already, without a doubt, changed from one end of the spectrum to the other end in just the 6 years I've been coyote hunting. I mean, from a hand call on a 308 single shot Thompson Center, sitting on the hill in the middle of a swamp, not knowing anything what I'm doing, watching YouTube videos. And back then, even 6 years ago, it was hard to find a good YouTube video on how to kill a coyote. You seen them deer hunting. You didn't go coyote hunting. I didn't really hear of anybody doing it, at least in my neck of the woods. So for me, being able to come up here today and being able to meet some of these other guys that are in the sport and to use night vision and thermal and all this other red lights. I didn't even know why do we use red lights? I had no clue. So I've started from zero and I'm able to kill coyotes now. So that's why I think it's awesome you guys are here. Hopefully we can give you some kind of tips that maybe you're just missing that one thing and that dog seeing it and holding up. So
To start off, by show of hands, how many guys in here already called coyotes and have had some success?
Sam, raise your hand.
Yeah, Sam, you gotta get your hand up, bud. Okay, so
I see it, even in camo.
So a lot of you guys have already called some dogs in. I see, by the show of hands in here, there's a lot of guys that, might be still looking for their first dogs. So, we'll start off with just the pure basics. You see a lot of equipment up here. You don't need this equipment to kill dogs. This right here, as simple as it gets, a mouse squeaker. This and this distress call is what it started with for me 20 years ago. These two calls right here. It's what it started with. I was one of those guys that walked out, first time out, 2 minutes out, pops a coyote and I shoot him. I thought, oh, this was easy. Did I not know what was coming? 1022, you don't have to have a $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 setup. You can do it with the bare minimals. To this day, when I'm out hunting, how many times have you seen me? I'll have a mouse squeaker in my pocket, and that coyote will hold up at 100 yards, 150 yards.
I've got video proof on here, and if we can get the sound work better, I'll actually bring it up. He's out fox hunting. Doesn't even turn the call on.
Yeah. A lot of time I will start my set off with just this. Pull this out of my pocket, especially if it's a set where I'm able to sneak in quiet. Where I feel I don't make a sound going in. Right here. I'll start my set with this. just a couple of subtle squeaks. And that's for those coyotes that might only be out there 200 yards. He's just into the woods. He's down in a ditch. He hears this.
They're about.
He's coming. He's coming. If he hasn't heard this before, he's coming. So just you don't need all the high-tech stuff. The high-tech stuff makes it a lot nicer, makes it a lot more fun at times. So that being said, just the real basics right there. There you got it. Hand call, mouse squeaker, and 22 long rifle. It'll get the job done. 22 long rifle might not be the best choice of firearms for coyote hunting. A lot of coyotes have died to them. Shotgun. Several of us, one of the guys on our staff, he would just as soon prefer to hunt with a shotgun over a rifle. Myself, just depends on where I'm hunting. If I'm down in a swamp, yeah, I want to have a shotgun. If I've got a little bit of open country, I want the rifle.
A lot of guys, when you're first starting out, and girls, good girls in here, it's nice to see them in the sport. It's awesome. A lot of people daytime hunt, especially when you're new and getting into the game. And for me, it was always daytime hunting. I never even looked at nighttime hunting. Like I said, red light, why do we use those? How many people in here with a show of hands know why we use a red or green light for coyote hunting? So a few. So it all has to do with the retina scale of the coyote's eyes. Okay? So I'm not going to tell you that they can't see a red light, because I can go home and my dog will chase it. Dog and a coyote, they're all canine, right? But what I will tell you is a lot less alarming to them. You hit them with a white light, and it's like somebody's driving a Mack pickup truck at them. Semi, whoa. You hit them with a red light, and if you halo them, that's the most important part. You don't want to fine beam them right in their eyes.
And you'll hear us refer to halo quite a bit. So if you're hunting with a red light, take that top bear right there. If you look just above his head, you can see the center part of my beam. What you want to do is you want to keep his eyes, as he's coming in, you want to keep his eyes in the bottom part of that halo. And what that does is that keeps that concentration of light directly out of his eyes. By doing that, you're not truly blinding him. He doesn't, the red light is not as noticed to him. It's not as alarming to him.
We've had dogs hold up. You hit them with a light, if you weren't scanning with a light before, and then all of a sudden you pop that light on, especially if you turn it on and off a lot. We've had dogs hold up on us. Yeah. And they were coming on a string, and all of a sudden they stopped.
Once you've got a dog coming in.
Could you fellas speak up a little more so the back could hear it?
I'm sorry.
Please?
Yep.
Did everybody get the halo and the lights there? Okay. As you're hunting with the light, it's important to not hit them with it, get it off. Hit it with them. You want it, once you've got that coyote in the light, you want to keep him in that light as much as possible. If you're on him and off of him, on him and off of him, the more times that you bring that light back onto him, it's more chances that he's going to see that light. If you get that light on him and you leave it on him, he doesn't notice the difference. I've had some guys describe it as it's like you're looking into a kind of a little bit of a fog. And as long as you stay in that fog, you kind of get used to that fog, and it doesn't. But if you're in that fog, out of that fog, in that fog, out of that fog, it alarms you a little bit more. And it's kind of how the coyote sees that red light a little bit. So once you've got him in that light, try to leave him in that light. Again, very important. Do not, don't focus that beam right on his eyes.
When do you start the light? Halfway across the field or right at the beginning?
Well, if you're hunting with red lights, and that's what you're using, we scan the whole time that we're hunting with red light. The light is on the entire time that we're on the set.
Now, one thing to be cognizant of while you're scanning, if you're hunting with a partner, you don't, especially with some of these night snipes, I have a nice little halo on mine that keeps a narrow beam. But the wider beams, you don't want to illuminate your partner. A lot of times when we set up when we're night hunting, we're standing in the middle of a field, in the middle of a cut hay field, cornfield, anywhere we can get in where we can actually see and it's low enough where we're going to identify coyotes. You don't want to, if you just so happen to hit them with a little bit of that halo, the coyotes key up on that. So you're pretty much concealed if you leave the light on the whole time and you're scanning, as long as you give your partner. So if I'm hunting with him, I'm going to scan to here, he's going to scan from there that way. And that's kind of how we run it. If you get too far, you might have a dog that sees it and you might lose him.
Yeah, if I'm hunting with a red light over instead of night vision or thermal, this is how I'm sitting out there. Scanning, just looking for eyes. Looking for that eye shine. With the lights that we're running, you'll get eye shine out to 1,000 yards on a crystal clear night. I'm not here to sell you a product and tell you that this product is better than the next product. There's nobody sponsoring us to hunt. So we're going to give it to you straight. We're going to tell you, this is what we use, this is why we use it. You come up here, you look at the call, the calls on the desk. Matt runs a Primos. I run Fox Pro and Icotech. I'm not going to tell you that one is that much better than the next. A lot of it is based upon getting where there's dogs, sneaking in on those dogs, and playing something that they want to hear. So, can you guys hear any better now, back there?
No.
Now? Yep. Okay. We'll try with the microphone here. So as you're hunting with the red light, remember, as you're scanning, if you've got a woods line out there,
You got to use the microphone.
sorry. As you're scanning out there, like if we're set up, typically I don't, if I'm hunting with lights, I don't like to be within 100, 125 yards of the woods. The reason being is, right here's a prime example. My light shining through that tree, you get that shade, or that shadow back there. That same thing, when I talked about that coyote, when you're putting the light on that coyote and off that coyote and on that coyote and off that coyote. When you get that close to the woods, that shadow is intensified so much that as he's running through the woods, he may be trying to get downwind again. He's going to see that. He's going to be in that light, out of that light, in that light, out of that light, and he's going to see that. So I try to stay 125 yards away from a woods edge, especially if I think that's the woods edge that they're coming from. Now there are times where, especially the other night, for example, it was really bright outside. We had a pretty bright moon, we had snow cover. Well, in those cases there, you're standing out in the middle of a wide open field. I'm a fat guy. There's a lot of me to see. So they're gonna, in that situation there, you may have to use that woods and sneak up on that woods and use something as a backdrop. A lot of the time if I'm out on a wide open field, I'll drop down over the edge of a hilltop that I would normally like to stay on. I'll drop 10 yards, down off the peak of that hill so that the hill conceals me some. Now if it's a jet black night like it was last night, I got no issue standing right on top of that hill. They're not going to skyline you too, By the time they get close enough to skyline you, you should have already killed them. Not saying that you're going to, that they won't skyline you, but the likelihood is very low. That's one thing that, I wish people would have told me when I was starting out, especially night hunting, is that A coyote's eyes are good. A coyote's nose is good. But a coyote makes his living with his ears. And I discredited his ears for the first 15 years that I coyote hunted. I did not give a coyote credit for his ears. If I wanted to go hunt a field, I just went and traipsed across that field. I didn't give it much thought of, I'm making a lot of noise. I didn't get, I'm walking across this crunchy snow field. Well, one day I hunted with an individual who said, we can't hunt back there. I says, why? He says, we're gonna make too much noise walking across that field. What are you talking about? And he put it to me just like this, and I've used this phrase a lot. A coyote will stand out in the middle of a 20-acre field, and he can hear a mouse squeak under a foot of snow. Don't think for a second that at 500 yards, he does not hear you walk into the field. Don't think for a second. He hears you.
I just want to comment, say that was beautiful. We can use that.
So,
I like to lighten the mood. Does anybody have a question? I want to take one quick one, really quick. That's what I like to see.
What's your opinion on daylight hunting?
All right, I was just rolling into that. Daylight hunting. He's a nighttime guy, don't want for you. He'll hunt him in the day, but he's just went dark. Anyway, daytime hunting, it's a lot different than nighttime hunting. You're not going to be standing out in the middle of the open field like he was just describing. You're not going to probably be standing on top of a hill in the middle of somewhere. You're going to want to kind of get a backdrop next to a tree and some bush. You're going to be in camouflage, kind of like turkey hunting. When you turkey hunt, you're pretty much mostly camo. When I coyote hunt in the daylight, that's what I'm doing. At night, if it's in the summer night, I'll go in a t-shirt and shorts, and I don't care what color they are. It could be orange for all I care. Yeah, I'm not worried about it. During the daylight, you still sound like he's saying, because coyotes like to sleep on fence rows. Farmers see them and go across the field from fence row to fence row all the time. I know because I build a lot of hay. So coyotes are closer than what you think. And a lot of people, that's one of the first mistakes they made. It's one of the first mistakes I made. I would think, well, I got to get into the swamp. I need to go here. Now, I will say, it's a lot easier to call a coyote in the middle of the woods with a shotgun or with an open spot in your woods somewhere, or if it's an open woods. Great. It's a lot easier to get them to comfortably come in there than it is to go into an open field in the middle of the daylight. A lot of times they'll hit that field edge and they'll hold up and they're looking. Because the coyote, he's very smart. Like he says, he uses his ears, nose, eyes. And if you don't give him the option to get downwind, and if you put downwind in the middle of that field, in the middle of the daylight, where he doesn't have cover now, he's a predator. Yeah, it's not safe. If he's a young one, you're going to get him. They will do it. There's dumber coyotes out there. But a real nice, mature coyote is not going to do that. So, there's tools out there to help you with that. If you want to hunt fields and you don't want to go in the woods, you get a mojo critter decoy or any kind of decoy, and it does help. I mainly use this for cat hunting. I started out using it for coyote hunting, but I kind of went to the dark side with them. Hunting coyotes in the night is 100% easier. I'm going to throw that out there. He'll probably agree, maybe not. Do you agree?
oh, I agree.
A lot easier. Nothing wrong with daylight hunting. The times, I always get asked, I got buddies that I hunt with all the time, they're like, well, what time do I go coyote hunting? I think I'm going to eat lunch and we could go tonight around, about prime time for deer.
I can't hear him.
Well, I don't know, I've killed them at night. You can kill coyote any time of day. You want it, as long as they're there, and you get into that area quiet, and you get concealed up, and you don't put them, wherever you think that coyote's coming, you don't put that downwind, and you give that coyote, so for example, you're in the middle of the woods, you think the coyotes are coming from the west, okay? You're gonna wanna put downwind, obviously not going to the west, because they're gonna smell you before they get to show themselves. You wanna almost hunt a crosswind. That's what I like to do in the daylight. I like to catch that coyote trying to get my wind, whichever direction it's gonna be. That's gonna help. The biggest thing that we like to do, or I like to do, is scout. During the daylight, I'm in the woods, I'm scouting. Where's the tracks, where they at? Talking to my surrounding neighbors, where you guys getting the coyotes? If you got your own property, where you typically hear them, right? They're probably gonna be not very far from there during daylight hours. They still hunt during the day. Your distress noises are still gonna work. I have found that locals work way better at night. So I try to lean, I'll still howl in the day, if I'm not hunting fox, I'll start with an invite or some kind of howl right off the get-go, but then after that, I'm mostly distressed. Fawn distress works pretty well during the daylight, I found. But like he said, that little mouse squeak will work. There's really no magic sound. I will tell you, any kind of distress sound, dog distress, is going to be your key noise. Like if you shoot at a coyote and he runs away, and you want that coyote to hopefully come back or turn him around really quick, switch to some kind of pup distress or coyote distress, ki-eye, anything like that that is like one magic sound I can say.
For any of you guys that have e-collars now, and if you're looking for just a good free sound to download, go to Fox Pro's website, and they have a sound on there called Coyote Ki-Eye. For years, I had my collar set up, and as soon as it has what they call Fox Bang, but as soon as I would pull the trigger and it would hear the report of the gun, it would instantly switch to that Coyote Ki-Eye. And that Coyote Ki-Eye, like I said, it was free, and I used to be king of cheap. My wife is in the back, she will confirm this.
Still is.
So,
My job's been
that
fun.
Coyote Ki-Eye is, if you missed him, it might be just enough to stop him. He turns around, he looks, it might give you that second opportunity. If a double comes in, you dump the first one, by the time that Coyote Ki-Eye or pup distress, some kind of distress sound, is gonna give you that, it's gonna stop that coyote for that second or two. Boom, you kill him.
Is an example of a coyote. Most of you guys that have hunted coyotes know what we're talking about, but for people that are just getting into it. This is a pup distress. And that ran hard last night, so it's starting to need batteries. But anyway.
The long and short of, the distress sounds are, you're trying to get that, a lot of the time, the pup distress, the ki-eye, that's playing after you've already made your first shot. So you're trying to get a follow-up shot, either on the coyote that you just shot at, or trying to shoot his partner. By the time, when a coyote comes in, he's coming, he's bouncing. One thing that I like to do, and some guys do different things, but I'll bark him. I'll bark him to a stop, just with my mouth, just, oh! That right there, if a coyote's coming in, trotting in, bouncing in, running in, you don't want to take that running shot. You want to take a standing still shot. And that right there, more often than not, will stop a coyote in his tracks for about 2 seconds. Because as soon as you do that, he knows the gig is up. So you want to make sure that you're ready to make that shot. So as soon as he puts on the brakes, you get 2 to 3 seconds of a standing still coyote. Take it. That's your shot. After he's running away, you can try to bark him. It may or may not work. Sam was with me here a couple weeks ago, and I barked at a coyote. He didn't stop. Sam barked. He liked it. My bark evidently he liked. Sam's bark got his attention.
That was a wussy bark he did, though.
What's that?
That was a wussy bark he did.
It was, okay. So, it's a,
That's my job.
definitely you want to, when possible, take that standing shot. I've let a lot of coyotes walk
I don't know what his problem is.
that I didn't, they wouldn't stop. 150 yards, they're still running. I can't stop them. I've learned that I think it's better to not educate them any further than to send it and hope for the best. That's me. I'm not gonna criticize anybody for taking a shot. I might criticize somebody for missing,
All right, click.
okay?
You wanna play the footage? Just remember, we record this stuff now.
I know. When you're hunting, make sure you load your rifle, okay? Since he brought it up, make sure you load your rifle.
Tip number one.
Yeah. When you're at the truck, make sure that you load your rifle. Very first hunt that we ever tried to put on film. It was
Cameraman made him go deaf.
What's that?
Cameraman made him go deaf.
Yes, you did. It was a classic hunt. Went out, daytime, boom, we were within a minute, had this coyote coming in. She's coming in on a string, thought we got her. She crosses the fence row, and she's 30 yards away. I pull up, he's got the camera on her, and you hear the AR go, click.
That's been his nickname ever since.
Yeah, there's certain names that stick. So then in my haste, I short racked the AR. And I went, click again. And then I may have thrown the AR. At which time he threw down the camera and said, well, we're gonna kill a coyote. And
Missed.
I still hear ringing in my ears occasionally, so.
In my defense, it was running away. I don't know the distance, but it was a long ways.
He did take a heck of a long shot on a coyote.
And I knew it wasn't gonna make it, but it was his payback for going click, and he's gonna be deaf, so.
So, yes, make sure that you load your gun, please. It's a very frustrating moment when you have done everything right because you called the coyote in and then you don't kill him because your gun isn't loaded.
For example, though, on that set, and you asked about daylight hunting, I'm sitting in a chair, basically, one of his extra hunting chairs, and it's about this tall, and we're on a fence row. And the field, we got a field here in front of us, and we have a field behind us. We're sitting right in the middle of the fence row. Now, Matt is kind of perched up on your knee, basically, right next to me, and he's watching this field. When I'm calling, and I got a tripod here with a camera on it, and I got my rifle is perched over here. I didn't plan on using it. But anyway, so I got the camera ready, and I look over, and here comes this coyote. I caught it in my peripheral vision right up to it in the other field, crossing the same fence row that we're sitting on. So I tell Matt, I said, hey, there's one behind us, it's coming. He goes, hey, where at? I said, you just get ready, because it's about to be in front of you in about 2 seconds. Okay, that coyote crossed, and she had been what, when she was first in front of us, maybe 75 yards?
Yeah, I figure when I shot, she was inside of 25 yards, or when I tried to shoot.
But our wind, for example, was straight out in front of us, basically, that day. So that coyote came, and she was circling downwind of us. She went right next to us through that fence row, didn't even know we were there. We're in full camouflage, we're holding still, just like a turkey hunt, like I said. And that coyote never knew we were there. So that's an example of one set in between two fields that you could do, but it's amazing because I can tell you that though, and then you guys can go and try it, and then you'll have one coyote that does something different, and everything I just told you is a lie. So it's hard to put on a seminar and tell you this is one way to kill. It's not like deer hunting, and it's not like rabbit hunting. I can tell you how to kill many of them, and I'm only 22 years old. So coyotes are very unique in the fact that a coyote's going to do what a coyote wants to do. The only thing we can do is try to give you a couple tips of what we messed up on. Don't do that. Load your gun.
Daytime hunting, Matt's stressed about wind. You definitely have to watch your wind a lot more during daytime hunting than you do nighttime hunting. Nighttime hunting, for example, last night we didn't hardly have a wind at all. What we did have was a little bit of a northwest wind up here. So I said, it was minimal enough. I didn't care about the wind. At night, a coyote is gonna very likely, if he's west of you, he's gonna come from the west of you. If he's to the south of you, he's gonna come from the south of you. There's less chance that he is going to circle you. Not saying he's not gonna circle you. So please don't say, take that, but I would guess that, my experience is that fewer than fewer than 50% at night are gonna circle you. You know, that being said, again, the other night, I, did,
Would you forget to load your gun?
no,
Oh, okay.
did a bunch of sets, and, I mean, pretty near, it was just one of the magical nights. Pretty near every set had coyotes coming in on us, and pretty near every set had coyotes circling us. I don't know what was up with that night, but almost every coyote that we hunted that, or seen that night was trying to get our wind. I hadn't seen that myself in a long time where I've had, you know, every coyote on every set try to get my wind. I don't know if we were too loud going in that night, or, you know, what the case may be, so.
You get any of them?
What's that?
Did you get any of them?
There was a couple of misses. I had a buddy with me.
That's always an excuse, he's blaming on me all the time.
Hey, I put him, I was trying to get him his first coyote. The only coyote that got hit that night was one that I shot at, and I showed a couple of the guys the pictures. I've killed deer that bled half as much. And I tracked him for 300 yards to a big swamp. First step onto the swamp, I went through to my knee and I said, nope, that one's not getting recovered. So it's something that happens. You know, part of that is maybe the round that I'm shooting. I love hunting with the ARs. I really do. Without getting political, anybody who says an AR-15 is not a hunting weapon is wrong. So,
You wanna explain that for us, bud?
yeah, so one of the big game changers that's happened for us here in the last 3 years is being able to use center fire rifles at night. .269 caliber and smaller. So 270 is basically your first round that is too large. What this did, center fire at night, from the rifle shotgun zone, which for the most part is M57,
Yep, so,
M57 South, you can shoot center fire at night on all private lands, and you can shoot but you cannot shoot
center fire and state.
kicking. I don't hunt the south half.
I do. So you can use center fire at night, just like you said, on private land in the shotgun territory. Private land, no problem all night long. You get into the state grounds, and it's a no-no still. You still have to go use a rim fire. Above, into our zone, into the rifle zone, and north, you can hunt state land and your private property with .269 caliber and smaller all night long, no problem. So a 223, 243, no problem.
Since we're talking calibers a little bit, I'm constantly asking them, what's your favorite caliber? My favorite caliber is something in the 6 millimeters. 243, 6.5 Grendel, 6.5 Creedmoor. Those are my favorite calibers. Reason being, it's a big enough bullet. You put a coyote, you hit a coyote with it, and you anchor it. Too many times I've seen with the 223, you hit them, and they're back up. You hit them, you think you just smoked them, and they're back up. There's a prime example of one that my son shot here 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. Took her pretty much straight on. She's coming in, took her right across here. First shot, went in just in front of the front shoulder, came out just behind the opposite side of the shoulder. She piled up. It should have been a dead coyote, boom, right there. About 4 seconds in, 3 seconds, she is back on her feet and she is moving.
You want to ever get on YouTube in this thing or what?
What's that? What, you trying to find that video?
Yeah. I was gonna play the watch, so. Bam.
You know, dragging it on.
What'd that dog come into, Matt?
What's that?
What'd that dog come into?
Yeah, right here, you hear a mouse squeaker. Now, this is me recording through my scope, so where my crosshairs were was not his shot. Right there's a prime example of a coyote that was hit. It was a good center, put around through the boiler room with a 223, and she got back up and ran. This was that same night. This was about 5 minutes before Cody shot that one you just seen. Had a double come in. The second half of the double never came across the fence.
That was a half-ass hog.
You're barking, bark stop.
And you can see my son's bullet go alone in front of the coyote. That,
When you see Matt's bullet, we ain't gonna talk about that.
so, yes.
You use a ballistic tip bullet?
I'm shooting out of my 223s. I'm shooting Hornet a VMAX, 55 grain. It's the best that I've found. So, out of the 223, and there's different guys that have different experience with them. I know Stan shoots them. He loves them. He doesn't hardly have a coyote run on it. Somehow myself, I can't hardly seem to put one down in one shot. So, that one hasn't been edited. It has a little bit of language in it.
Did you get straight to go? Was that
Just the audio on track. My gun wasn't on it. So, okay, back to the seminar.
How hard was it snowing in that video?
What's that?
How hard was it snowing in that video?
It's snowing hard.
In that video there, it was a damn near blizzard.
Okay, so 19 sees through that pretty well.
I'm sorry, what's that?
That was with the regular night vision with an IR?
Yep.
Okay. Because I know if you use the regular, the blindness is all get up with that.
I'm sorry,
The regular light, you'd be really blinded with snow like that.
Right, and,
You were able to see through that pretty well.
with the IR, yeah, you can see through it. That particular night, I had a buddy with me that was shooting this gun here with just a red light on it. And he was not scanning. He couldn't, with just the regular red light, that gun was next to worthless that night.
Now, how did your thermal work?
The thermal scanner worked beautiful. I mean, it'll, in heavy snow, fog, it definitely cuts down the distance as to how far you can pick up with the thermal scanner. But it's still gonna pick up farther than anything else out there right now on the market.
We'll cover most of that.
Well,
Does anybody have any questions?
so far.
Back there.
You start a set out, how often and how long do you use your e-collar?
It depends. It truly depends. I've had some sets where I will run the collar almost continuous. And when I say almost continuous, the only time that it is shut off is when I'm searching for my next sound that I want to play. And then the next set I might play it for, I might have it turned on for 2 minutes and off for 5 minutes. Or on for 5 minutes and off for 2 minutes.
A lot of that has to do with the pressure in the area. How many people are out coyote hunting in your area? Did they just run hounds on them the day before? How pressured are those dogs? That's going to have a lot to do with how much noise you want to make, because a call-educated coyote, you're going to want to play a little bit of noise and then kill it. You want to get quiet. Just like if you guys hear them barking, you'll be calling and calling and calling. We had this happen last night. Jared Stratton and I were out coyote hunting. Shut the call off, and about 300 to 400 yards away inside the woods, you can hear them just light up. I mean, serenade, they're just going crazy, but they will not execute to come out of the field. It's like, what do? You get quiet. Hit them with a couple more sounds. I like to challenge them. or run, usually this time of the year, we're getting into the mating season, I'll throw a female out and then I'll just get quiet. You don't want to keep playing back and forth with them. They think you're coming to them. You want them to come to you. So just get quiet.
You know, a lot of the time, you're going up against Mother Nature. A lot of time, they're gonna meet in the middle. Well, you're not gonna meet them in the middle. You start moving, they're gonna bust you. So you gotta make them commit 100% of that way.
So how long do you wait after that when they respond?
It depends. Sometimes you can sit there. I would usually, if I have dogs and they're howling and they're holding up, I'll wait an hour, 2 hours. If I know there's dogs there, I'm not moving. But it depends on how educated those dogs are.
There
If they're
was
educated, sometimes they'll challenge you. You'll hear them bark, 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 howl, bark, bark, howl. And that's not good. That means I know that something's not right, and that coyote's mad, and he's just basically telling you, get lost, I'm not coming out there. I've had that happen.
saying last summer, you and I hunted one night. How long did I carry on that conversation with that dog?
2 hours,
2 hours.
nonstop.
2 hours nonstop. He would howl, I would howl.
He still hauled at the truck.
He would howl, I would howl. 2 hours.
He put the other way there.
He was on the opposite side of a river. I needed him to cross that river. And it was not a big river. The river was 15 feet across. I mean, it was something that he easily could have crossed. But that river was his territory boundary. He would not cross that boundary. And that's what you will get sometimes. You will get a coyote that will sit there and talk to you and talk to you and talk to you. And you're going to say, why won't he come? Why won't he come? What's going on? That coyote, that was his territorial boundary, and he would not commit to coming beyond that boundary. We actually moved north and south in the field that we were in, calling, and that coyote moved north and south along that riverbank on the opposite side, howling right back at us.
Sound familiar, Jared Stratton? Basically same thing. We didn't have a river, we had a creek, very small, same deal though. I could actually have him pull it up on his map and show you right where we were, and it shows you the blue line for the water. But, just, that's part of the game, unfortunately.
I mean, that you will run into situations where they just will not come in. You're going to hear them, and they will not come in. They didn't bust you. You'll know if you get busted. At some point, I'll play a threat bark. And if you hear a coyote do a threat bark, gig's up. He knows that you are there. Forget it. At that point, if I hear a coyote do a threat bark, I very quietly go and pick up my stuff, and I leave. I don't want to call to him anymore. I don't want to educate him any more than he's already been educated. At that point, it becomes an educational experience for him, and the more you educate him, the harder he is going to be to call in the next time. Yes?
I don't want to break up the sequence of events, but could you go through your calls? Because I've heard you start with a mouse squeaker, but everything else seems to be coyote calls. Do you use wounded rabbit? Do you start off with coyote calls? I mean, what's your sequence of events?
Again, it varies time of year. I'll do a wintertime set right now. The first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to try to appeal to his belly. So I'm going to start with a mouse squeaker, and for the first, this time of year, typically my sets are going to be 22 to 30 minutes long. For the first 7 to 10 minutes, I'm going to play rabbit distress of different types. Myself, I'm kind of a Tony Tebby snob. He's a custom call maker out in New Mexico. I've got a bunch of his sounds. In my opinion, he makes the best sounds in the market. And his rabbit sounds are phenomenal. That's what I will use for the first few of my, I might play 2 or 3 of his different rabbit sounds. And what I do is I start out with the higher pitched sounds, and then I will work to deeper pitched rabbit sounds. There are certain coyotes, sometimes they like this sound and they don't like this sound. I hunt out in Montana some, and I have seen coyotes coming to me. They like this sound, like this sound, like this sound, and they have an attention span about like that of a 3-year-old. He likes this, he likes this, he likes this, and all of a sudden, oh, look, there's a squirrel. And he don't like that sound no more. So I am one that switches sounds a lot. And I might switch back to sounds. So the first 7 to 10 minutes, I'm gonna use a rabbit distress, or some type of a distress sound.
Oh, wow.
Typically, my callers never go beyond 50% of what they're capable of sound they're producing. For distress sounds. When I go with vocals, I normally take them to about 3/4 what they're capable of. I don't care who manufactures it, whether it's Icotech, Fox Crow, Primos, Lucky Dog, any of the calls, once you get them to that 90% or higher range, you get some sound distortion. And I think that a coyote hears that sound distortion. Some might tell me I'm wrong, I don't know. I kill a lot of coyotes, so I call in a lot of coyotes and miss more than I kill. So I don't go terrible loud. After I get done with my rabbit distress, so 7 to 10 minutes in, I'm going to do either a simple invite or a meet and greet howls. This is just, it's a casual, non-threatening howls, just to see if there's anything that wants to respond out in the area vocally. And if they respond, that tells me what I'm going to next. If I get responded by a deep threat bark, or a deep challenge, I'm gonna respond back with a deep alpha challenge. Because if you've got an alpha dog out here, he hears another alpha dog, he's coming to say, this is my backyard, why are you here? He's coming in. If you hear a very squeaky type coyote, chances are it's a very young coyote. You probably don't want to play some type of alpha dominant call against a young coyote. You're going to send him packing for the hills. He's going to hear that and he's going to say, I don't want to go mess with him. So, 7 to 10 minutes, you get your rabbit distress, then I'm going to move into a meet and greet type call or a simple invite. If I don't get a response, at that point, I might go back to like a coyote pups and fawn. Coyote pups that are eating a fawn yet. And I will do that right now. I will do that in February. 2 things. One, a coyote's parental instincts are very strong. I don't care what time of year it is. A female coyote's parental instincts, she hears pups. I don't know what it is. She hasn't had pups on her side for 6 months. There's a good possibility she hears it. She's gonna come and investigate it. She wants to know what's eating pups, or what these pups are eating. And a male coyote, he hears pups. He hears that pup sound. Well, that male coyote knows that, there's no pups around here, so there's pups of not my lineage here, not no more. I'm going to come in and try to wipe them out. So pup sound, that's where pup sounds work so well year round. So one, you're playing on their parental instinct, but 2, you're playing on their food instinct. So you went back to their food instinct that you started with your rabbits for the first 7 to 10 minutes. So you're going back after them for their food, you're going back after them with their parental instincts. If that doesn't work, then typically I'll do a challenge howl. I'm gonna, I'll play the pups and fawn for 2 to 3 minutes, And if I can't get anything to show up, I will then go to a challenge owl. And depending on the area that I'm in, knowing what I've already killed out of that area, if I hunted that area 2 weeks ago and I killed a big male, I'm probably gonna I'm probably gonna do like a female challenge. If I have hunted that area and haven't killed anything in a while, well, chances are there's gonna be an alpha dog already in that area. So I'm gonna start off with an alpha dog challenge. I'm gonna try to play to what the coyotes I feel are actually in that area. If you know that you've killed, again, if you know you've killed an alpha female or a big female, you've killed a male out of one area, and they had pups in that area, don't go in there and do alpha calls. Go in there with pup howls. Pup howls work very, very well, especially to call in male dogs. Male dogs and pup howls are, and again, if a male coyote is out there, a dominant one, if he hears pups, if they're not of his lineage, he wants them out of there.
Any more questions?
Do you change up at all in February?
February, I will probably only do maybe 2 minutes on, a minute off, 2 minutes on of rabbit distress, and then I will go straight to vocals. I'll do a female invite, or a female in heat. Again, I am always one that, I always want to play to their hunger first. Because you can't hardly mess up a distress call. When you go to vocals, if you don't know what that coyote's saying to you, if he barks at you, if you don't know what he's saying back at you, you might send him packing for the hills if you get into the vocals too much. So if I can get them to respond and come in on a distress call, I would much rather have them come in on a distress call. Because if they're coming in on vocals, they're coming in one of two reasons. One, to breed, two, to fight. So they're on high alert. You go up to a buffet, you're going to a buffet, you're thinking about eating. You smell that food, you hear that food sizzling, you're thinking about eating. Your guard is not as high if you can get them to come in on a distress sound as you can on a vocal. On a vocal, they know there's another coyote there. They don't know that coyote. Are they going to get their butt kicked, or are they looking to kick somebody's butt? So it's a good possibility with vocals. You're looking for coyotes that are looking for a fight.
Where do you, how far away do you position the call from you, and where do you set it? Do you set it upwind, downwind, behind you, crosswind? Where do you put it, and how far?
Typically, even though I said earlier I don't worry about the wind as much at night, I do typically, if I can, still play the wind, but it's not it's not my major contributing factor. Typically, my caller will be on the upwind side of me. And it depends on if it's the first set of the night or if it's the sixth set of the night. The first set of the night, caller might be out there 30, 40 yards. The sixth set of the night, when I'm tired, caller might be sitting right beside me. The farther out you put the caller, to a point is good, because they're coming to that sound. So if you've got it set out there 30 yards, they're coming to that sound 30 yards away. Remember when I said that they can hear a mouse squeak under a foot of snow in a 20-acre field? His focus is all that way 30 yards. So typically I like to see them, 20, 30, 40 yards. Now you're gonna, to get off subject just for a second, you're gonna hear these call manufacturers brag about 400 yards of call, remote range. I've coyote hunted for, this is my 21st season. One time have I ever set a caller out over 100 yards. One time. And I'll bet fewer than 10 times have I set a caller out over 50 yards. If your caller has a remote range of 100 yards, you're good. You don't need, you don't need to set out there with a caller that's got 500 yards of range and set that thing out there 300 yards. You don't need to do it. Number one, I just said, he's coming to the caller. So let's say he's out there, you set that caller out 150 yards, and he comes in and he holds up 100 yards the other side of that caller. Now that's a 250-yard shot. Anybody know what the vitals, the size of the vitals are on a coyote? About the size of that collar. That's not a very big target at 250 yards. I grew up shooting off of a bench. I consider myself a pretty good shot. My dad's in the back here. We've shot some competition shooting out to 800 yards.
When he loads his gun.
When I load my gun. We do, I consider myself a pretty decent shot. Off the tripods, even this tripod here, this is my primary setup here, that's pretty solid. I still don't like to shoot more than 150 yards. I just don't like to do it. Your percentage drops so far because you try to put a round into that. Now that goes back to the bigger calibers, the 6mm rounds having a little more forgiveness too. So back to your question about how far to set the collar out. It's all up to you, all up on your personal preference. I've called just as many coyotes in as I have, with the call sitting 5 feet away from me, as I have with it sitting 35 yards away from me. I don't think it makes a huge difference personally. Other than the far, having it away from you, it means that the coyotes come to there. Now, I say that if I'm hunting with inexperienced guys who I can, are gonna make a little bit of noise and get a little bit excited, I will set the collar out 30, 40 yards on those sets with those individuals. And it's nothing against it. Everybody's new. Everybody is new at some point, and everybody's gonna get excited. The other night, I got terribly excited. I had a double coming in, and I thought, here, I haven't killed a double on film yet. And I thought, here was my chance to kill a double on film.
All you can hear in the film is him breathing.
I got a little excited. Hey, and if you don't get excited, hang up your gun. Predators are an exciting animal to kill, to hunt. When you've gotten to the point where you can go out and consistently calling predators, especially a coyote, that's top dog. Man has tried to eradicate coyotes for how many years? We can't do it. We can't do
You
it.
can say that word.
How far do you go from your vehicle?
How far do I go from my vehicle? It depends on the conditions. Like right now, it is so loud outside. Last night I could have woke up a dead person walking through the fields. It was horrible. That's why I feel we didn't call in any coyotes last night. Never seen a coyote, never heard a coyote last night. I think that everything around us, everything in a half mile, heard us walk in. It was just terrible loud. So a night like last night, I did 3 sets, and not a single set did I go more than 100 yards from the truck. And I hate doing that. I hate sitting that close to the truck. If I can get 400 yards from the truck, I want to get 400 yards from the truck. Not too terrible long ago, we did a set, and we were 30 yards, Sam, from the truck. Earlier that night, before the hay fields had froze up, it was quiet walking in. We'd had a lot of success. We started walking out in this field. It's like, ooh, we got down to 30 degrees. the field started to freeze, we were making a lot of noise, I said, this is where we're set. My son kinda looked at me like, Dad, the truck's right there. I said, yep, the truck is right there, we're sitting right here, and called in 2 coyotes, 30 yards from the truck. So, it's what Mother Nature's gonna allow you to do. I wanna get 300-400 yards away. Now, there are nights that I will park on the road, like last night, for example, if I'd have had a little bit more time, I maybe would have parked a half mile down the road, walked down the road a half mile, and then went 10 yards into the field. Because you could walk down the road last night pretty quietly. But last night, every set that I did was off of a paved road. I didn't really feel like walking down paved roads in this area carrying an AR. It's a good way to get the cops called on you. Which is gonna happen. You're gonna night hunt, you're gonna have the cops called on you. Local COs in our area have my number on programmed in their phones, and they have called or texted me more than once. Hey, are you out so and so or at such and such place? Yep. Okay, got a complaint. Just wanted to know if it was you. It's gonna happen. You're gonna have the cops called on you. Give them respect. And I can't stress that enough. They're out doing a job. They're not there to ruin your hunt, even though it did ruin your hunt. They're not there to ruin your hunt. They're there to do their job. So give them some respect there, guys. They do not want to ruin your hunt. They would just assume have not gotten that complaint of somebody out hunting in a field. It's not what they want to deal with. So.
With that being said, we're kind of running over our time here. We're going to take a couple more questions, but.
And again, I will stay afterwards, answer any and all questions. If you guys want to come up and look at the stuff.
Yeah, feel free to turn on the ATM and
So,
stuff.
question back.
Hey, nice shirts, by the way.
Oh,
Hey, you too.
Hey, you got, say, your 3,000 acres, how far away from your first set do you want to be when you do another set?
That 3,000 acre piece, I did 3 sets on that entire property the other night. It's all pretty much conjoining property. So,
So
I typically, if I do a set here, I'm gonna not do another set within 3 miles.
Out of 300 nights that you hunted, what's your average that you actually seen a coyote?
Last year, there was 131 coyotes that I called in that had rounds fired on them.
30%, more than 40?
I figure I'm calling in a coyote 1 out of 3 sets. Here recently, the month of December, actually was very good. The other night, when I was out, it's been a great, the last 5 weeks has been probably one of the best 5 week spans of my Michigan hunt that I've ever had. I mean, it's just been phenomenal.
A friend of mine told me that it's not a really good time right now because it's not that cold and there's a lot of dead deer still from the roads and everything.
Well, here recently, it has been more vocals than it has been food. I haven't been very successful with distress calls in the last 5 weeks. It seems like they have gotten a little more vocal early this year. So, I think that we might have an early breeding season. I don't want to say we're going to have an early breeding season, but I think that we could have an early breeding season this year, just the way that they're responding to vocals in December, here locally.
What's early?
What's that?
What do you mean by early? And what do you mean by early?
Typically, you will see the first females coming into heat around the 3rd week of January. And I wouldn't be surprised to start hearing guys saying that they are knocking females down that are in heat anytime.
How should you hunt the in-heat season? With vocals?
Challenge, vocal calls, female in heat. If you want to spend a little bit of money, go on Tony Tebby's website and download his 1-900 Coyote. Sound.
I'll give you the.
I don't name the calls, I just buy them, hear the sounds. And it's a great sound. During breeding season, it's a sound that kills a lot of dogs.
All 2070?
What's that?
All 2070?
There's 800 calls or sounds on the Icotec. So, you never know what you're gonna run into. You never, and me, I'm a very firm believer in that I hunt right here in Jay's backyard. Jay's is a huge seller of calls. Biggest seller, of calls in northern Michigan. And it's in my backyard. So a lot of these coyotes are very, very well educated by a lot of the factory sounds. That's one reason why I'm a Tony Tebby snob, and I don't hunt with a lot of factory sounds. I hunt with a lot of custom sounds for that reason, because it's something that the coyotes have heard. Not that you can't call in coyotes with these factory sounds. These factory sounds have called in and killed a ton of coyotes over the years. That's why they're on their collars. But if you're running a Fox Pro and you're running the same rapid distress as you're running, and you're all hunting in the same area, well, them coyotes real quick are gonna pick up on. We hear that sound. That's a bad. And I just told everybody in here, go buy Tony Tebby sounds. So if you go and buy Tony Tebby sounds, tell him I sent you. Maybe he'll give me a break on my next subscription.
What do you have labeled on the bud bet?
What's that?
What do you have the whole label on? Tested coyote or?
No, should be coyote threat mark. No go.
I'm not used to that remote.
Yeah, you guys, if you guys want to hear a little bit about collars and different collars, I'm not here to sell you a call. I will tell you, I'm not a Primos guy. I do like my Fox Pros, probably the best. Probably my overall favorite collar that I've ever owned. This Fox Pro right here. It's a Fox Pro Banshee. It's not an expensive call as far as calls go. It's a $300 call now. For quality of sound wise, I think it's great. You're not gonna find a much better quality sound for the money. It's got a good enough speaker on it to reach out there and get a coyote's attention. I originally got that collar for hunting out west because I wanted to, out west, you're not calling dogs that are 3/4 of a mile away. You might be calling dogs that are 3 miles away. So you need something that's gonna have good volume out there a ways. Tony Tebby teamed up with Icotec to make the Outlaw call. I recently picked this one up.
Maybe forgot that sound put on.
What's that?
Forgot that sound.
Okay. I just reorganized all my calls, and maybe I didn't get all of them on. It's not tested coyote, I know that. This is my first e-collar. It was a Fox Pro Wildfire, and just for grins and giggles, sometimes, especially in the summertime when it's hot, I don't feel like carrying a backpack with a bigger call in it. I'll go to the woods with this right here, and I kill coyotes with this call every year. It doesn't get just a ton of use anymore, but primarily it's my crow call. That's where it gets most of its use anymore, is calling crows. So, lights. Again, I'm not going to try to sell you on a light one way or the other. Go ahead.
How do you train a light to let you hunt 300?
Hey, Jennifer, wife, she's not paying any attention to me. How? I don't know. I got lucky. Seriously, I got lucky. probably one of the big things is she gets up at 4 o'clock in the morning to go to work. She starts her day at 4 o'clock in the morning, she goes to bed about 8 o'clock at night. So if she goes to bed, she goes to the bedroom, I go to the truck.
You play this inside enough, she'll kick you out.
Yes. Lights, I'm gonna tell you that there are some lights that are better than others. I think that my personal experience, we've had the opportunity to test a lot of lights over the years. You will see every gun up here is equipped with a Night Snipe NS550. I think it's the best. Does that mean that you gotta go out and buy an NS550? No, I'm sure Jay Sporting Goods would love it if you did. There are some other lights out there. If I didn't have an NS550, I would run a Predator Tactics Coyote Reaper. Last year when we tested the two against one another, they were both great.